Welcome to the Dick Beardsley Fishing Scene. On today's show, we're going to go out on the ice and do some pan fishing, stock some walleyes with the DNR, and show you how to go out on a new lake and find the good spots. You won't want to miss this show. It's coming right up.
It's everybody's kind of place, the Cormorant Pub in Cormorant Village. Great food, great fun, and more. From pub-made pizza to burgers and sandwiches to full dinners to the pub's famous roasted chicken. The Cormorant Pub is your spot in the lakes area for lunch, dinner, or after-hour get-togethers. Lunch specials and dinner specials featured daily as well. Full line of beers, wines, and spirits too. Happy hour 3 to 6, Monday through Friday. Here in the lakes area, you're always going to have a great time at the Cormorant Pub. And remember the Cormorant Bottle Shop right next door. It's the Cormorant Pub in Cormorant Village. Tricia, Brian, and the whole pub crew look forward to seeing you.
Folks, prairie potholes are numerous in western Minnesota and all across North and South Dakota. And when you drive by these small little potholes, you might not think they hold any fish. But believe me, folks, in the last few years, especially in the Dakotas, when we've had a lot of wet weather and these small little potholes have filled up, there's lots and lots of great pan fishing to be found on just about all of them. And the good thing we've got going so far this year is we don't have an overabundance of snow. Now, most of these small pothole lakes are fairly shallow and they don't have a lot of structure to them. You won't find a lot of breaks and drop-offs and big weed lines or rock piles, things like that. Sometimes just small little basins where the drop may only be a foot or two at a time can really hold some nice fish. But the key is you got to move around a lot until you get on some fish. Oh, there's one right there. Come here, buddy. Oh, you got around my Vexler cord there. Come here, pal. Nice jumbo perch, huh? Yeah, hey, look at that, folks. Nice, fat jumbo perch. Look at the belly on that puppy. I'll tell you what, this little pothole we're on today is just filled with freshwater shrimp. And I'll tell you this, that's why them perch are down here, and that's why they're big and fat, just like this one. We're going to save a few for supper. Now what we're using, I'm using a small Lindy Frosty jig. Now the key about this is that they glow. And what we're using is a wax worm, and we're hooking it right through the one end of the wax worm. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking that taser light, which we've got here. Let me get the opening, the wax worm's open up here. I'm just taking a wax worm, and I like to hook them once right through the end, not of the head where the brown part is, but the other end. Hook it once through there, and then what I like to do is take my Lindy taser light. Now you can use a flashlight or a lantern if you're out there at night, but it's really something. This really has a lot of power, candle power to it, and it glows up your jig really bright. You don't have to leave it on there a very long time. Now I'm using a red glow jig, and the water we're fishing today is really murky. So you need a glow jig or some type of a rattler to kind of get their attention. But I find that that bright red glow jig in this type of water really makes a lot of difference. And then what we're doing is I'm dropping it down right almost off the bottom. I've got my Vexler on, and I can watch my jig dancing around down there. Now today we're kind of having to really entice these fish. They're not really aggressive as of right now, so we're going to really jig them. Okay, I got one coming up on my Vexler right now. Come on, come on. Stop it. He's looking at it. Then wiggle it again. There he is. There's another nice jumbo. All right. These aren't huge jumbo perch, but boy, they're nice eaters, and they're fat. As I said earlier, folks, we're out here on one of these small pothole prairie lakes that you'll find all across the Dakotas and western Minnesota. And the thing about these lakes is that you want to try to find the area where there's the deepest water. Now on this particular lake, about the deepest water I found out here is around 16, 17 feet, and we're right on the edge of that. We're actually catching these jumbo perch in about 13, 14 feet of water, but not very far away. A couple of fish houses lengths away, we're sitting in about 16, 17 feet. Now earlier I tried in some deeper water, didn't have a whole lot of success. Then I went to kind of a medium range, about 14 foot, 15 feet, now in about 12, 13, and that seems to be where we're picking up these fish. Now my waxworm, after that one, is still in good shape. So what you want to do, anytime you bring it up to check your bait or you put new bait on, make sure you take that Lindy Taser light and light her up good on both sides and get her back in the water. Now with that Taser light, that light will actually last a good 5, 6 minutes down there of being real bright. Just want to drop her all the way towards the bottom. And then these fish have been laying right off the bottom. And sometimes all I like to do is swim the bait up and then let it just float back down. Swim it up and then just let it flutter back down. There's one. This is a nice fish, folks. Nice fish. Oh, big old gill. Oh, look at the size of this horse. Oh man, folks, that is a jumbo bluegill right there in one of our pothole lakes found all across western Minnesota and north and south Dakota. That is a beauty. Wow. I'm telling you folks, that's a beautiful fish. In fact, that one's so nice, we're gonna let that one go and get her back down in the hole. That's a nice fish. Man. There's one. Hey folks, we're on a hot bite right now, and a lot of times it won't last very long. So once that bite gets going, take advantage of it the best you can. Another nice jumbo perch. Not too bad of an afternoon here on the fishing scene.
Coming up, we head out with the DNR to stock some walleye.
It's time now for the fishing scene tip of the week. When you're out fishing panfish and you're not sure when to go, morning, afternoon, or in the evening, a lot depends on the clarity of the lake. The clearer the lake, the earlier or the later in the day you want to go. But if you're on a bog-stained lake or a murky watered lake, then all day long, the bite can be real good.
Hi, I'm Steve from Frontier Marine and Power Sports, Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Come on in and explore our store. The new Bennington pontoons are rated #1 in customer satisfaction by J.D. Power and Associates. These Benningtons are like having your living room right on the lake. You'll enjoy being the captain of your new Bennington this summer. If you want to water ski or cruise on a Sunday afternoon, we've got the motor for you. Come on in and see our lineup of Bennington pontoons at Frontier Marine and Power Sports in Fergus Falls, located just north of Perkins off I-94. The fun starts here.
One of the tools we have available to us in fish management is fish stocking, and in Minnesota we have a long tradition of stocking lakes with walleye fingerlings and walleye fry. You have a history of maintaining those artificial populations in lakes that don't have natural reproduction. And so part of our fall operations, a large part of our fall operations, is working our walleye rearing ponds. And those are ponds, small lakes, shallow ponds that typically winter kill, that we stock with fry in the spring and we come back in the fall and harvest the fingerlings out of. Winter kill means that they go devoid of oxygen in the winter and the fish life in the pond dies. And the reason we like that for rearing ponds is because that removes any competition that's out there and we get good survival of our fry and good numbers of walleyes, of age 0 walleyes to stock in our lakes. The fry are newly hatched walleyes right from eggs. They're about 1/4 inch long. They're kind of about the size of a mosquito. When we harvest them in the fall as fingerlings, they've grown all summer long in the ponds and they can be anywhere from 4 to 10 inches long. They vary a tremendous amount. What we do, we'll typically arrive at work on a day that we're working ponds. We'll water up the tanks. Typically our trucks have double compartment tanks, and they're around 150 gallons of water each. So we can hold about 150 pounds of walleye fingerlings in each tank. We'll add salt, defoamer to the tanks, and then we'll drive out to the ponds. The salt goes in the tanks to eliminate the stress on the fish. It reduces their ability to have to regulate their physiology. They can maintain their ionic balances better with salt in the water. Fish are constantly regulating the amount of fluid in their bodies, and salt in the water helps them to do that. So it reduces the stress on them, and they haul better that way. We'll go and work our trap nets, and trap nets are nets that are placed in these ponds with leads running up to shore, and the fish swim around, hit the leads, follow them out into the traps, and then get stuck in the traps. We come and open those up and empty the fish into our tanks, our troughs, haul them back to the trucks, and load them up. We've also got oxygen running on the tanks that helps the fish survive while they're in the tanks. We load them to about 1 pound of walleye fingerlings per gallon of water in the tanks. After they're collected out of the ponds and loaded up into the tanks, we drive them to lakes where we have a management plan that calls for stocking. We've got tubes that connect right up to the backs of the tanks, and a gate that can be simply lifted out of the way, and they'll basically flush out with the water directly into the lake. And that's hopefully their new home, where they'll grow for 2 to 3 years and hopefully be caught by anglers down the road somewhere. We have specific quotas and numbers assigned to these lakes based on their management plan. And that management plan is derived at stocking rates that we know work through trial and error, through experiments. We've been doing this for about 100 years, and we've gotten better at fine-tuning the numbers of pounds of fish that need to go in to produce a fishery. So, for example, a lake like Bad Medicine might receive 1.5 pounds of walleye fingerlings per literal acre, and a literal acre is the area of a lake that's less than 15 feet deep. That's sort of the productive zone of the lake, the zone of the lake that's producing a large amount of the food. And that relates to the amount of fish that the lake can survive. And so our stocking rates are based on the productivity, a simple measure of productivity for that lake. And that's a formula that works pretty well. We may adjust that up or down a little bit. Most of our lakes receive about 1 pound per literal acre of fingerlings. Now, the numbers vary a lot from year to year because the fingerlings can be larger or smaller. And that's probably okay because the larger fingerlings survive better than the smaller fingerlings. So you have the same amount of poundage, and the survival based on size kind of compensates for the fewer numbers of larger fish that you put in. We only stock about every other year. We haven't found much better survival stocking every year. We get a decent population stocking every other year. And in nature, things aren't always that constant either. You get a lot of variability in year class strength. So we don't usually try to stock every year, but we'll go in and survey these lakes later on and try to capture these fish at age 3 or 4 or 5. That's typically when we sample them in our surveys with our nets. And by leaving those blank years in stocking, when we age the fish, we can tell whether or not that fish may have originated during a year when we did stock. And we can get a little bit of an idea as to whether or not our stocking is doing any good or not. So if we get a lot of fish that are originating only during years when we stock, we might make the conclusion that stocking might be doing some good in that lake. Whereas if we're getting fish from all years where we don't stock and years we stock, it becomes a little more gray. By collecting a bony structure off of them like a scale sample or a spine and magnifying them with a microscope, you can tell their ages. You can read their growth rings like you can a tree. And walleyes lay down different rings during the summer than they do during the winter. In the winter, their growth slows way down. The material that's formed on their scales is much different and much denser. And when you magnify that using a microfiche reader or some kind of dissecting scope, you can see those annular rings. and determine their ages.
Still to come on the fishing scene, we are out mapping the hot spots.
This country wasn't discovered, it was built. One home, one neighborhood, one school at a time. The future, it has to be built too, out of concrete, out of drywall and 2x4s. At ProBuild, we believe there's a builder inside us all. We believe it's time we put him to work.
Hey folks, when you're going out onto a new body of water or on a body of water you haven't been on in a while, boy, sometimes it can really be confusing on where do I go to look for fish. My first suggestion is make sure you pick yourself up a book like this or a set of maps or one particular map for the lake you're going to go on. This one here covers all the Detroit Lakes, Otter Tail area, gets into Mahnomen County, Clearwater County, and even up into Polk County. And the nice thing about this is it covers most of all some of the best fishing lakes in that entire region. Now I've been on this lake before, but it's been a while. And in years past, I've gone out there and marked my favorite spots with my handheld GPS unit. Problem was, guess what folks? Somehow they got erased off my GPS unit. And since I don't fish this particular lake all that often, I really rely on my GPS to get me back to those spots. So I'm back out here on this lake today, and I'm gonna go back out, look for these spots, just like you would if you've never been on the lake before, and try to punch in my coordinates so when I get back out here again to really do some fishing, I'll be able to get right to the spot. Now when you get yourself one of these maps, you look at the maps, and the thing you gotta remember is these maps aren't to scale, they're not super accurate, so you gotta kind of take it with a grain of salt, but they give you a starting point anyhow to be able to locate some of these areas. Now what I like to look for is I'll look for, like on this particular lake, there's a couple of islands up above the ground. Those are always good areas. Look for those points off of those islands, because where there's a point on an island, there's usually a point coming in underneath the water also. I like to look for sunken islands that are out there in the lake. Those are islands that you can't see with the naked eye because they're below the water, but they'll show up on this map as round circles. Also what I like to look for are lines. You'll see lots of lines on these maps. Those are called contour lines. And what I like to look for on there is the closer the line is to each other, to the next line, the quicker the drop off. And walleyes, northern pike, bass, all kinds of game fish relate to those sharp breaks. So I start looking for that. I also start looking for areas where there's big, shallow flats. The reason I look for big, shallow flats is because there's a lot of bait fish out there. And if I can find large, shallow flats close to deep water, I can guarantee you this, you're gonna find some walleyes, northern pike, bass, even some muskies if your particular lake has it. So pretty basic. I'm looking on here. Right off the bat, just with a quick glance, I see about a half a dozen spots that look pretty choice that I'm going to go out there and see if I can't find them with my locator using the map. And then once I hone in on them, then I'll punch in my coordinates into my GPS unit. And then the next time I come back out on this particular body of water, I'll be able to go right to the spot. Let's get going. All right, folks, we're looking for a 16-foot little hump. It's surrounded by about 20 feet, and then off the edges on that, it goes down to about 30. It's not very big. And according to the map, I'm getting lined up with this island, and what is showing on my map here We should be starting to approach it here pretty quick. But now again, remember, these maps aren't all that accurate. So you're gonna have to do some moving around. That's where you're gonna wanna really keep an eye on your locator. What I'm gonna do now is I'm following straight out from that point, and when I get into that 30-foot range, then I know after that, hopefully shortly after that, I'll start coming up onto the top of that hump. Once I get up on top of that hump, then what I'm doing is I'm throwing out that buoy just so I know generally about where I'm at. Then what I wanna do is follow off that sunken island that we're up on until I start seeing a significant drop in the water. So I get out to about 20 feet and it continues to go down deeper from there. So then I know I'm right on that edge of that break line on that island. And then what I like to do is just follow that 20-foot contour and follow it around. And like on this island, it makes basically a big circle. And what you can do is, if you want to, you can throw actually more buoys out there, so it gives you a general idea how big it is. I'm not going to do that today, but you can do that if you want. Now, one little sidebar here to this, you know, you look on your map and it might say 16 feet what you're looking for, but who knows when this map was actually made. So if it's in a high water year, actually that top of that sunken island might be 18 feet, or if it's a low water year, it might only be 14 feet. But you know it's that sunken island because I'm coming up out of that 30-foot level, all of a sudden, boom, there I'm up there, and then in a relatively short period of time, it starts falling back off the edge. These small spots are hard to find, but it definitely pays to take the time to get out there on that lake and find them, because those are the spots that not a lot of people can find either. If you take the time, I can just about guarantee you, you'll probably have that spot to yourself and you might get on a good pot of fish. Now, some of the maps you buy, like on, say, Leech Lake, Mille Lacs, some of the bigger lakes that are fished a lot, there's been a map company that's gone out and basically given you every foot increment on that water with your GPS points right on there. You don't even need to do this anymore. But most lakes aren't like that. Hey folks, I was driving back and forth, crisscrossing, going this way, going that way. Hey, I finally found the spot. Then what I did was I pitched out a buoy just to make sure I was on top of it, and then I went around the area. Sure enough, that's exactly the spot I'm looking for. It took a little bit of time, but I'll tell you what, it's well worth the effort. And you know what? On top of it being a good spot, I'm marking fish down there too. That makes it even better. So now what I'm going to do here, I get back here and I'm going to mark it on my GPS unit. Now on mine, and on a lot of units, you can hit average. What it'll do is it'll take in all those satellites and it'll average out what each satellite is picking up, so you get an even better chance of coming back to that exact spot. I'll let it sit on that average for about 30 seconds. Then I'll go back and it'll ask me, at least on mine, if I want to save it. And definitely I do want to save it. So I hit enter, saved, there we go. I can pick up my buoy and now we'll go and find another spot. I sure hope you enjoyed today's show, and remember to practice selective harvesting. By doing so, we'll continue to have great fishing for years to come. For my camera gal, Raina Benson, I'm Dick Beardsley. I'll see you out here on the water.